You know the moment someone paints a glittering future with you and your body relaxes, as if a promise were a warm blanket? Days pass, nothing changes, and you're left holding a story that never leaves the page. Future faking is the use of grand promises about tomorrow to control how you feel and act today. The person speaks in vivid plans, trips, moving in, starting a business, meeting the family, yet their present-day behavior stays vague, non-committal, or conveniently delayed. The gap between words and action becomes a tool. You're encouraged to invest more time, more forgiveness, and often more resources in exchange for a future that keeps sliding just beyond your reach. This pattern shows up in dating, friendships, and workplaces, and it thrives wherever there's an imbalance of power or a hunger for certainty. Inside the nervous system, the promise of a brighter tomorrow triggers anticipation and relief. Your brain releases feel-good neurochemistry when it imagines reward, which can be powerful even without evidence. If your attachment history includes inconsistency, you may have learned to work hard for closeness, to believe warmth is always almost available. Cognitive shortcuts then do the rest. You focus on the few moments that confirm the dream and mute the many signals that contradict it. None of this makes you naive. It makes you human. We are wired to bond and to find patterns that keep hope alive. In daily life, future faking often starts with accelerated intimacy. The conversations feel deep quickly. You are future mapped together. Holidays, shared apartments, long-term plans, while practical steps remain oddly fuzzy. When you ask for specifics, the energy shifts. You might hear that now is a busy season, that they are dealing with stress, that soon is coming. If you pull back, another wave of affection and promise arrives, and the cycle resets. The escalation follows a predictable loop. Idealization, postponement, re-idealization. Each loop taxes your clarity, because intermittent reward is the stickiest kind. It teaches you to chase the next maybe. There are subtle markers that help you differentiate red flags from green flags without turning your life into a courtroom. Red looks like a calendar full of rich tomorrows paired with cancelled or downgraded todays. Red sounds like affectionate ambiguity, many words, few dates, plus a gentle pressure to be patient or understanding. Red feels like borrowed certainty. You are calmer when you replay their big talk than when you look at the week you just lived. Green looks smaller at first glance. Concrete steps that match the scale of the promise, transparent limits, and an ability to say not yet without dangling a fantasy. Green sounds like time-bound commitments. This Friday, this budget, this task, and the willingness to renegotiate publicly when circumstances change. Green feels like continuity between sentence and schedule. Picture a simple vignette. You meet someone who says their last relationship taught them everything. They want something serious, and the speed of the connection is intoxicating. Within weeks, you're hearing about a summer trip together. When you suggest booking tickets, they glow but say prices will drop if you wait. Then work gets wild. Then a family situation flares. You pivot to smaller plans. Just dinner at that new place. And find that too gets moved. It's not dramatic, just slippery. On a quiet evening, you realize you can narrate a year that never actually happened. The promise kept you company. The person did not. If you recognize pieces of yourself in this, you do not need a personality overhaul. You need a few grounded moves that restore alignment between what is said and what is done. Start with an internal audit that asks one question. If I could only evaluate the last 4 weeks, what story would that data tell, regardless of the speeches about next month? Let the recent past be your microscope. Then translate expectation into observable steps. If someone says they want to plan a weekend away, the next move is not to feel grateful. It's to open a calendar. If they pivot, you note the pivot and decide accordingly. Finally, build a floor of self-respect that doesn't depend on their promise. This is not an ultimatum. It's a boundary that says, I act on patterns, not previews. Sometimes the mind argues back, but intentions matter. They do. Yet in healthy bonds, intentions recruit logistics. People who are able and willing to show up will protect the small commitments that make big commitments possible. They won't shame you for asking for clarity because clarity helps them too. In those relationships, negotiation is visible. A plan may shrink or move, but it doesn't evaporate. You do not live on future tense language. You live on cups of coffee that actually happen, and phone calls that start when the clock says they will. Future faking frequently hides inside love bombing, yet it can also wear a softer coat. Not every manipulator is loud. Sometimes it's a gentle romantic who speaks beautifully and believes their own previews in the moment. This does not excuse the pattern, but it explains why it's persuasive. Sincerity at time point 1 does not equal reliability at time point 2. The skill you need is not mind reading, it's calibration. Calibrate words against behavior over time. When the line keeps diverging, assume the line you can touch is the real one. In professional settings, the same dynamic shows up as career-shaped promises. A manager hints at promotions and raises after this quarter, yet tangible development stalls. The responsible move is to convert vision into milestones. Training dates, written goals, a review schedule. Mentors who are invested will welcome structure because it protects both sides. If structure is treated as mistrust, that is information. A healthy workplace treats commitments as contracts, not as fireworks. In friendships and family, future faking can masquerade as optimism. A loved one may swear they'll be there next time and truly want to be. If the pattern is chronic, it still erodes trust. The compassionate path is to separate character from capacity. You can appreciate their warmth and also design your expectations around what actually occurs. You can love someone and stop outsourcing your plans to their best-case scenario. Love does not require you to keep believing what repeatedly fails to materialize. If you decide to address the pattern directly, anchor the conversation in the recent past. Describe 2 or 3 specific instances without stacking them like evidence in a trial. Name the impact on your nervous system, perhaps the whiplash between hope and exhaustion, then make a concrete request. For example, you might say that you prefer plans to be set within a shorter window, or that you will consider trips once smaller commitments become reliable. If you're met with defensiveness, note it. If you're met with curiosity and a willingness to experiment with new habits, note that too. Change rarely happens in a speech. It shows up in the calendar. When it is really hard, when promises are linked to unstable housing, finances, or your sense of safety, treat yourself as a person whose stability matters right now. Share the pattern with a grounded friend or a counselor, so the story doesn't live only in your head. Build small routines that return agency to your body. Movement, sleep, regular meals, simple journaling about what actually happened. If you are experiencing coercion or emotional abuse, specialized support is not a luxury. It is a path to clearer choices. You don't need to wait for a spectacular betrayal to honor what your weeks already know. If the relationship can be repaired, it will be repaired through accountability and consistent action, not through grand revisions to the dream. You can co-design a smaller future together that steadily grows. You can also decide to step away without turning the other person into a villain or yourself into a fool. The most respectful interpretation of your past is that you were loyal to a possibility. The most respectful thing you can do now is be loyal to evidence. Here is a simple way to move forward without turning your life into a checklist. Whenever you hear a glowing plan, pause and imagine the smallest next action that would make it real. If that action appears even imperfectly, you lean in. If it repeatedly does not, you step back. Over time, you will collect a pattern. The pattern, not the promise, deserves your commitment. There is nothing unromantic about this. In fact, it's the deepest romance. Choosing relationships that are sturdy at the scale of ordinary days. Futures built that way are quieter and less cinematic, yet they hold. They are not made of hurried declarations. They are stitched from breakfasts that happen, texts that are answered, budgets that are honest, and repairs that are visible. If someone wants to build that with you, they won't need to hypnotize you with someday. They will meet you on Tuesday and start. If this feels confronting, take one gentle experiment into your week. For 7 days, record what was promised and what occurred, without judgment, like a researcher. Notice how your body feels when those match, and how it reacts when they don't. Let that data be your compass. It won't shout, it will point. If this supported you, consider sharing it with someone who might breathe easier hearing it, and subscribe to stay close to more calm, practical guidance. Your time and attention are precious, and I'm grateful you spent them here today.